Good. Good morning, class. How have you been? It's time for English. The last time I was here, we learned about tenses, and then we also did passive to active voice. I'm sure we've all understood. In our Zoom class, we marked the work, and most of you got relatively good marks, 15, 18. That's very good of you. So in today's lesson, we're going to look at the direct and the indirect speech. I know most of you have a problem on how to change the sentences. As we said in class, direct speech is the actual words spoken by a person, the actual words quoted. So the direct speech is the actual words spoken by a person. For example, listen to me. And then you want to quote it, what I said. You'll say, the teacher said, listen to me, the exact words that I used. So that is the direct speech. And then in the indirect speech is when you want to report the spoken words. You want to report the exact words, but this time you're the one giving a report. So as I said, listen to me, the teacher said. You want to change that into indirect speech. It will be, the teacher told us that we should listen to her. The teacher told us that we should listen to her. So in this case, I want us to look at the changes that we make when changing from direct to indirect. I'll read this slowly, and then there will be a screenshot at the end of the lesson. So listen very carefully. Number 1, this is changed into that. This is changed into that. Example in a sentence. In any sentence using the word this could be, I watched this movie, Mary said. I watched this movie, Mary said. Then you want to change that into indirect speech. You will say, Mary said that she watched that movie. Look at how we've changed this into that. So you have to consider those changes. Changing this into that. And then the second one is changing this here, capital A, plural, THESE. So this is changed into those. This is changed into those. This for plural is changed into those. So bring me these books. Carry these books to the staff room. Peter said, carry these books to the staff room. Then changing that into the indirect speech will be, Peter was told to carry those books to the staff rooms. This into those. Then we have here, come here, said the teacher. Come here. Here is changed into there. So here is changed into there. For example, come here, said the teacher. When you want to change that in the indirect speech, you'll say, the teacher told her to go there. Look at how we've changed again, come into go. We'll look at that later. So here is changed into there. Then now is changed into then. Bring those books now, she said. When you want to change that in indirect speech, you'll say, she was told to bring those books then. To take those books then, To take those books then. So now is changed into then. Then come is changed into go. Come is changed into go. Come is changed into could. Shall is changed into should, but only in the past tense. Will is changed into would. May is changed into might. Today is changed into that day. E.g., it will rain today, said George. It will rain today, said George. So change that into indirect speech. George said that it will rain that day. Look at how we've changed the word will and today. It will rain today, said George. George said that it would rain that day. So today changes to that day. Then you have yesterday. Yesterday changes to the previous day. E.g., John said we ate ugali yesterday. John said we ate ugali yesterday. Into the indirect speech, you'll say, John said that they ate ugali the previous day. John said that they ate ugali the previous day. Tomorrow is changed into the next day. Tomorrow is changed into the next day. E.g., tomorrow we'll have a contest, said the teacher. We'll have a contest tomorrow, said the teacher. So into indirect speech, the teacher said that we will have a contest the following day, ama the next day. We will have a contest the next day. Next week is changed into the following week. Last week is changed into the previous week. So generally, it keeps changing. Is more of the past tense, so it keeps changing. Then I is changed into he or she. E.g., I am coming to your house, she said. I am coming to your house, she said. So into the indirect speech, you'll say, she said that she was coming to my house. And then we is changed into they. We is changed into they. My is changed into his or her. Our is changed into their. Then is changed into is. So there'll be a screenshot at the end of the lesson, just a quick one on that. I hope you record it in your books as well. And then there are some exercises down there. No, I think let's give examples first. An example, I want to go home. Change the following sentences into indirect speech using either she told me or she asked me, whenever suitable. So I want to go home, that is quoted. So change that into indirect speech. She told me that she wanted to go home. She told me that she wanted to go home. Number one, another example, I don't like this idea, quoted. I don't like this idea, quoted. So change that into indirect speech. She said that she didn't like that idea. Consider that we have the word this and we have the word I, and as we said, I is changed into either he or she. So I don't like this idea. So into indirect speech, she said that she didn't like that idea. Where is my book, quoted. Where is my book? Change that into indirect speech. She asked where her book was. She asked where her book was. Note that when the question is when the sentence is a question, when it's when the question is framed in a question manner, you have to also make sure that it is a question as well. So she asked. You have to use the word asked. So she asked where her book was, where his book was. 3. I am sick today. I am sick today. Change that into indirect speech. She said that she was sick that day. We said that today changes to that day. So she said that she was sick that day. Number 4, my watch is missing. My watch is missing. Change that into indirect speech. She said that her watch was missing. She said that her watch was missing. Number 5, get me a glass of water. Get me a glass of water. Change that into indirect speech. She asked me to get her a glass of water. She asked me to get her a glass of water. 6, where do you live? Where do you live? So change that into indirect speech. She asked where I lived. She asked where I lived. Number 7, they are calling you. They are calling you. Change that into indirect speech. You are being called. You are being called. Again, you have to consider the tenses. These were in all the English exercises that you'll do. You'll have to consider the tenses, because tenses give the sentence some sense. So they are calling you. You are being called. Number 8, your mother has come. Your mother has come. Change that into indirect speech. Change that into indirect speech. His mother, her mother had gone. His mother or her mother had gone. Number 9, my brother will come. My brother will come. Change that into indirect speech. Your brother, her brother will go. Her brother would go. We said that will changes to would. So we have some exercises that I want to give on page on the same about changing direct into indirect. And again, you have to consider all those changes that have to be changed when changing from direct to indirect. You'll again, the exercise will come as well. So you'll have to do that, changing from direct to indirect speech. So how are you? How is it going? How's the going? I hope you've understood what we've just done. Just a recap of what we've done. We were looking at the direct, how to change sentences from direct to indirect speech, and we said direct is these are the actual words of the speaker, the exact ones of the speaker. Most people love to say in quotes, so yes, in quotes. And during direct and indirect speech, we use quotation marks, what most of you call opening and closing inverted commas. Could call them as you wish, but as long as the concept is home. So just a recap of what we did. We said that when changing from direct to indirect speech, we have some considerations to make. The first one we said is this is changed into that. So I will give examples for what is here. So this is changed into that. An example of a sentence: I don't like this idea, said Mary. So we have the word this used there. So I don't like this idea, said Mary. So change that into indirect speech. Mary said that she didn't like that idea. So the word this is changed into that. So Mary said that she didn't like that idea. Number two, this, plural this, is changed into those. Some of you love to call it this, but I don't encourage that. So this, THESE, is changed into those. So e.g., Peter, I saw these boys, Peter said. I saw these boys, Peter said. So change that into indirect speech. Peter said that he saw those boys. Peter said that he saw those boys. So this changes into those. Number three, here is changed into there. Here is changed into there. An example of a sentence: come here, said the teacher. Come here, said the teacher. So into indirect speech, the teacher ordered her to go there. The teacher ordered her to go there. Number four, now is changed into then. Now is changed into then. So change that into indirect. An example of a sentence: I want to go home now, said Jen. I want to go home now, said Jen. So into indirect speech, Jen said that she wanted to go home then. Jen said that she wanted to go home then. Number five, today is changed into that day. Today is changed into that day. E.g., it will rain today, said George. It will rain today, said George. The answer, George said that it will rain on that day. George said that it will rain on that day. So today changes to that day. Number six, yesterday is changed into the previous day. Yesterday is changed into the previous day. An example of a sentence: she bought a lovely dress yesterday, said Joanne. Joanne is definitely giving a story. She bought a lovely dress yesterday, said Joanne. So report that Joanne said that she had bought a lovely dress the previous day. Joanne said that she had bought a lovely dress the previous day. Tomorrow is changed into the next day. Tomorrow is changed into the next day. Change that. An example of a sentence: come tomorrow, ordered the principal. Come tomorrow, ordered the principal. So change that into indirect speech. The principal ordered her to go the next day. The principal ordered her to go the next day. Next, our is changed into their. Our is changed into their. E.g., our house, that is our house. That house is ours, said Ian. That house is ours, said Ian. So change that into indirect speech. Ian said that that house was theirs. Ian said that that house was theirs. So what we've just done generally is examples. So I want us to do some exercise together. It will be on your screen. So take your book, follow up and listen. Let us do this together. So you're going to change the sentences into indirect speech using either she told me or she asked me, whichever is suitable. So again, change the following sentences into indirect speech using either she told me or she asked me, whichever is suitable. So an example of a sentence, I want to go home. Example, I want to go home. So the answer becomes, she told me that she wanted to go home. She told me that she wanted to go home. So we'll do the together. Number one, I don't like this idea. We've done that. I don't like this idea. So change that into indirect speech. She said that she didn't like that idea. She said that she didn't like that idea. Number two, where is my book? Change that into indirect speech. She asked where her book was. She asked where her book was. Number three, I am sick today. I am sick today. Change that into indirect speech. He said that he was sick on that day. Remember, we said today changes to that day. So I am sick today. He said that he was sick on that day. Number four, my watch is missing. My watch is missing. Change that into indirect speech. Change that into indirect speech. My watch is missing. So into indirect speech, he said that his watch was missing. He said that his watch was missing. Number five, get me a glass of water. Get me a glass of water. Change that into indirect speech. She asked me to get him a glass of water. She asked me to get him a glass of water. Number six, where do you live? Where do you live? So change that into indirect speech. She asked where I lived. It seems like I'm going too fast, so let me reduce the speed and I hope you're with me. So at number six, tumefika number six for those who have just joined us. And we are changing from direct to indirect speech. And we are doing examples together. So number six, where do you live? Where do you live? Change that into indirect speech. Where do you live? So the answer, she asked where I lived. She asked me where I lived. She asked me where I lived. Good. Number seven, they are calling you. They are calling you. They are calling you. Change that into indirect speech. They are calling you. Change that into indirect speech. You are being called. You are being called. Number eight, your mother has come. Your mother has come. Change that into indirect speech. Your mother has come. Change that into indirect speech. He said that her mother had gone. She said that her mother had gone. Number nine, my brother will come. My brother will come. Change that into indirect speech. My brother will come. Change that into indirect speech. He said, he told me that my brother would come. He told me that my brother would come. Number 10, my father wants to see you. My father wants to see you. Change that into indirect speech. My father wants to see you. So she told me that her father wanted to see me. She told me that her father wanted to see me. Number 11, can I come with you? Can I come with you? Change that into indirect speech. Can I come with you? So change that. She asked me whether I could go with her. She asked me whether I could go with her. 12, I can wait for you. I can wait for you. Change that into indirect speech. I can wait for you. Change that into indirect speech. He told me that he could wait for me. He told me that he could wait for me. Number 13, you may go home. You may go home. Change that into indirect speech. She told me that I may go home. She told me that I may come home. Actually, yes. She told me that I may come home. Remember, we said go changes to come. Number 14, your pen is better than mine. Your pen is better than mine. Change that into indirect speech. Your pen is better than mine. So change that into indirect speech. She told me that her pen was better than mine. She told me that her pen was better than mine. Number 15, your mother is my teacher. Your mother is my teacher. Your mother is my teacher. You want to change that into indirect speech. So together, let's someone try and maybe see whether you'll get the correct answer. Your mother is my teacher. Change that into indirect speech. She told me, let's use gender parity. So he told me that his mother was my teacher. He told me that his mother was my teacher. Number 16, have you done your work? Have you done your work? So number 16, have you done your work? Change that into indirect speech. She asked me whether I did my work. She asked me whether I did my work. Number 17, I gave you yesterday. I gave you yesterday. So change that into indirect speech. He told me that he gave me yesterday. He told me that he gave me yesterday. 18, show me your book. Show me your book. Show me your book. So change that into indirect speech. She asked me to show her my book. He asked me to show him my book. She asked me to show him my book. He asked me to show him his book. 19, did Paul return my book? Did Paul return my book? So change that into indirect speech. He asked whether Paul returned my book. He asked whether Paul returned my book. Number 20, come tomorrow. Come tomorrow. Change that into indirect speech. He told me to go the next day. He told me to go the next day. So generally what we've done is a whole exercise together. We've changed from the indirect speech, from direct to indirect speech. And then we'll give some exercises in the same. You're going to change from indirect to direct and from direct to indirect. So the exercises will come. For those who said in our last Zoom classes that they didn't see the exercises, we had Faith. Who else didn't see the exercises? Make sure you do these exercises. So we'll have them on page, on exercise 28. Then we have 25 questions where you're supposed to change sentences into indirect speech. And then we'll have the same 25 questions on how to change into direct speech, from indirect to direct. The first exercise, you will change from direct to indirect. The next exercise, you will change from indirect to direct. And then in our next Zoom class, we're going to mark that work together and ask questions where you didn't understand. So God bless you. Stay safe and sanitize. Good. I hope you've enjoyed the short break. We're now sitting to CRE. The last time I was here, we did a whole topic on prayer. I hope you remember that, and I gave some exercise as well. So during our Zoom class, I believe next week or later this week, we're going to go through those questions. So in the meantime, I want us to go to a new topic, which is social problems and Christian values. Social problems and Christian values. And of course, we'll begin with the Christian values. And in this case, we'll look at justice. So for those who have the primary CRE, I want us to, the primary CRE, book 8, I want us to read that short, it's a very short story, or rather an explanation onto what justice means, because we'll look at justice being the first one. So for those who have the book, please read with me. Justice. Angela and Kevin are standard 8 pupils in a primary school in Turkana district. One day, Kevin forgot his CRE textbook at home. When he came to class, he snatched Angela's book and refused to return it when she demanded for it. This annoyed Angela, and the two started quarreling, hence disturbing the rest of the class. When the teacher came in, he demanded to know why the two pupils were quarreling. Angela explained to him that the reason for the quarrel. The teacher told Kevin that he had made a mistake by snatching Angela's book. He warned Kevin against his unfair action and asked him not to repeat it in future. The teacher took this opportunity to explain to the class about some Christian values. He told the class that as a Christian, we should do good things to other people. For example, we should be fair, honest, generous, humble, and responsible. When you do those things that are right and good, we show that we are obedient to the teachings of Jesus Christ. So from that short extract, we've seen a story of two pupils, Angela and Kevin. They were given some work, of course, and then one of them forgot the book at home. And when he forgot his book at home, he decided to snatch the book from the other person. Where does justice come in? When the teacher came to class, of course, it is normal for a teacher to want to demand to know why pupils are quarreling. And of course, the two explain themselves. And of course, the teacher solved the issue. So what is justice? Justice means treating everybody equally and fairly. I'm sure you've heard of the word justice so many times. Now, justice was not served, justice was served. I'm sure you've heard of such words. So justice means treating everybody equally and fairly. Treating everybody equally and fairly, regardless of the situation. Treating everybody fairly and equally. Let's take an example of our courts. Let's assume that maybe you're fighting over a piece of land, and then maybe your dad has passed on, maybe your two siblings, and then maybe your dad has left some amount of land, and then you want to share it amongst yourselves. Maybe you're the brother and you're two, a boy and a girl. Then according to our culture, we've always known that boys deserve to get the land. Msichana aende apewe kwenye ataolewa. I'm sure that has always been the norm in our society. But as Christians, as the new Kenya, justice demands that if each of you get an equal share of your property. So you decide to go to court, the two of you, and then the court, of course, will serve justice, and then you'll be told, apana we chukua nusu na we chukue nusu. So justice is the act of treating everybody equally and fairly. And in the Bible, in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 22, verse 3. Jeremiah chapter 22, verse 3. For those who have the Bibles, you can check it out. Jeremiah 22, verse 3. It says that God commands us to do what is right and what is just. God commands us to do what is right and what is just. So God expects that his people act justly. He also expects that we treat each other fairly and equally. Fairly and equally. You know, you don't have to treat each other. You treat this one better, huyu unamtreat vibaya. That is not justice. So justice means treating everybody equally and fairly. In the Bible, again, God sent his prophets to the people of Israel to remind them of their covenant with him. Remember, God had made so many covenants, and of course there was a way to seal the covenant. And he also he sent his prophets in Israel to remind them of their covenants with him. They were expected to obey God's commands. Failure to obey resulted in judgment and punishment. Of course, if you disobey God, if you disobey the laws of God, of course you expect judgment and punishment. Prophet Jeremiah, in this case we're looking in the book of Jeremiah chapter 22 verse 3. Prophet Jeremiah told the people of Judah that God wanted them to do what was right and just. They were expected to protect the victims of cheating. Yes, they were expected to protect the victims of cheating. He also told them not to kill innocent people, mistreat foreigners, orphans and widows. In our society, not once, but I'm sure so many times, we find ourselves mistreating people who are of lesser class than us, lesser social status. We find ourselves mistreating them, foreigners, orphans and widows. Take an example of what is happening in Saudi Arabia. I'm not saying it's a bad country, but take a look at what is happening. You go there as a house help, maybe, then just because you're not one of them, you're a foreigner. We've seen cases of foreigners being mistreated out there. Oh, unawekwa kwa fridge. Like I was watching a very disturbing video last week about injustice of a family in Saudi Arabia of a Taita girl. She's Kenyan, and she happened to have some misunderstanding with the boss, and the boss got so angry with her, akamfungia nje, and it was raining. She was being rained on, and she was filming herself. You know, she's saying, I don't know where to go. The flights are not operating. She's out there being rained on. So is that being just? I don't think so.
A time without number is the cases that have been recorded as Kenyans continue to fall victims of modern-day slavery at the hands of their employers in the Middle Eastern countries. The young girls are being lured to take up the so-called lucrative jobs by bogus recruiting agencies who mint hundreds of thousands of shillings from their families only for the jobs to turn up to be sex slavery in the Arab world. And so the story of Victoria Wambui, a 21-year-old girl who left Githunguri with castles built on her mind only to sink into the hands of predators in Lebanon, extending slavery to the modern day.
Alinichapa na nini wa keboli ya stima inono. Akanichapa. Ikaishi hapo. Juu sifanyi ati sisongeshi mikono zangu haraka.
Victoria, whose mother is suffering from stroke, was lured into looking for employment in the Middle East on the 24th of June last year, and she thought the heaven had opened when she secured employment in Lebanon. But this turned into a nightmare just after 2 months. Life was difficult, and at times she slept without food.
Kuna wakati walikuwa wamekasirika sana hadi wakaninyonga, hadi bwanake akaninyonga na kakamba kingine hapo kadogo, lakini sikupass out.
Victoria was entitled to only $200 per month and says her first 2 months salary was remitted to the Lebanese agency.
Na sikuwa najua. Juu nikitoka Kenya hawakuniambia ati nitakatwa months zangu 2 za kwanza. Nikifika huko nilifika huko nikakatwa.
She arrived in the country yesterday in the evening and was rushed to Kenyatta National Hospital. Her aunt Jane Waithaka says that her niece was forced to leave the country to help her mother, who has been paralyzed for years.
Kama tulikuwa tunamuonya ili msukuma aende.
But while in Lebanon, her boss would not let her explain her traumatizing moments. Human rights activist Paul Kamau blames the government for failing to take necessary measures against the bogus recruiting agencies.
Amewekwa kamba kwa shingo, amefungwa huko kwa mikono, amepigwa miguu mpaka inafura na waya ya senyenge kulingana na vile ametueleza.
Haligan Agade for Sunday Interactive.
So God commanded us to be just to foreigners, to orphans, and to widows. Then in the Bible, again, in the book of Amos, chapter 8, verse 4 to 6, again, Prophet Amos is known for condemning injustices in Israel. So this one, what did he do? He condemned people who hated those who challenged injustices and spoke the truth in courts. He actually condemned those people who challenged injustices and spoke the truth in courts. Like, again, this morning I was watching another clip of a widow. No, she's actually not a widow. Of a 57-year-old woman and a 61-year-old man. Those are, of course, parents who, wamekula miaka. And then the MCA of that area wanted to use the trees in the widow's place, in the family's place. And then it happened that since the MCA was of course, he's a person of authority, he's a person who has authority, he went and started cutting down trees in the home of the woman. And people are there watching, and when the woman went to report, she was told, hapana, just let them be. So that was injustice. Kwamba, since she is challenging a person in authority, justice was not served. So Prophet Amos condemned such people who challenged injustices and spoke the truth in courts. And then he also condemned people who oppressed the poor and robbed them. Okay. So Prophet Amos also condemned people who oppressed the poor and robbed them of the grain. Like the example that I've just given of that woman who was being harassed by an MCA. You'll watch the video. That will come hand in hand with what I'm saying. So Prophet Amos oppressed the poor. He challenged people who oppressed the poor and robbed them of the grain, like what I've just said. Since that guy is an MCA, anakuja kwa shamba yako, and the land is not riparian, is not on any road, he decides to cut the trees. And of course, when the woman went to report, akambiwa, there's no case. So Prophet Amos actually condemned such. He condemned people who oppressed the poor and robbed them of their grain. Also, he condemned people who disrespected the Sabbath and used the holiday to sell their grain at a profit. Again, he condemned people who disrespected the Sabbath and used the holiday to sell their grain at a profit. Remember, on a Sabbath, we are commanded by God not to work, not to let anyone, anyone. Actually, it's supposed to be a day of worship. And then, since most people have realized that it's a day of worship, people are not opening their shops, you decide as an individual, hapana, mimi leo lazima nifungue shop. And by the Sundays sell. Yeah, Sundays sell. So you decide, I'm going to open up my shop. And yes, indeed, you do open your shop. And then, since all the other shops are closed, you decide to sell. If maybe maize flour is being sold at 100 bob, you decide to sell yours at 150. Since it's a Sunday, it's a Saturday, shops are closed, you decide to sell yours at a higher grain and at a higher profit, at a higher margin to gain profit. That was also condemned by Prophet Amos. He said, hapana, you guys should do what is expected. You're supposed to respect the Sabbath and use the holy day for worship and prayer. What else did he condemn? He also condemned the people who sold the poor into slavery because they could not pay up their deeds. They could not pay up their debts. He condemned people who sold the poor people into slavery because they could not pay up their debts. Slavery, human slavery was there. It has been there for I believe, saindo imeishaisha. But in those days, if you don't meet up, if you don't pay up your debts, you are free to be sold as a slave. So, especially the poor people. Like, we have a parable in the Bible of a widow who gives out the children because she cannot meet up or she cannot pay up the debt. So she has to give up her children for slavery so that the debt may be recovered. So Prophet Amos actually condemned such people who sold the poor into slavery because they could not pay up their debts. So what else did he condemn? He also spoke against traders who overcharged their customers and used false weighing scales to sell worthless wheat. Spoke against traders who overcharged their customers and used false weighing scales to sell worthless wheat. Like, take an example of what is happening right now. All of a sudden, the president has opened up the economy. Cessation of movement is not there, so you're free to move to any county that you wish. And since most of the matatu operators have not been working, they decide now this is the time to make profit. So kama unatoka Kiserian unaenda no, si Kiserian, maybe unatoka kama Nairobi, you're going to Murang'a, and the fare maybe you usually pay around 300 shillings. The traders, the guys responsible decide hapana, now this is the time to make a catch, so they charge you double. Look at an example during the holidays, the festivities, e.g. Christmas. Ikifika tarehe 20 fare inakuanga double. If you pay 1,000 bob, you'll pay 2,000. If you pay 500, you pay 1,000. And January, when guys are coming back to Nairobi and kids are going back to school, again the fare is hiked. Actually, Prophet Amos condemned such. And also, he condemned those who use false weighing scales. We have these weighing scales that maybe unapima sukari kilo moja, nini. So, you find someone has faulted the weighing scale, anaeka kama ni 1 kg, anaeka, it's supposed to be 1,000 grams, right? Anaeka 800. Anasema hii 200 ni yake, ndio faida. And then guys who sell worthless wheat, reject. We've seen not even once guys taking expired rice, repackaging again, and then selling the same rice to consumers. We not once, we've seen, I'm sure you've seen that. Such images will also come to your screen shortly as I'm saying this, whereby we find that traders sell expired food, they repackage it again. For example, you have a whole 100 tons of rice, then you expire yote. So what do you do as a trader? And you need to recover your money, so you repackage again. Expiry date ilikuwa nasema maybe 7th of July 2020. You make that to 7th July 2021. So you end up selling expired rice and expired foodstuffs to people.
Officers from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations have uncovered tons of expired rice at a go-down in Kariobangi South area right here in Nairobi. Suspected rogue businessmen were found repackaging the expired rice and labeling new dates on the bags, and as Elfas Ragat now reports, a manager and a supervisor of the store have been arrested as police pursue the owner.
Unknown to residents of Kariobangi South, unscrupulous businessmen have been operating right in their midst. Officers from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations raided Kimende's stores following a tip-off and unearthed tons of expired rice being repackaged and new days of expiry imprinted on the bags. Two people, a supervisor and a manager of the go-down, have since been arrested in the raid that uncovered a scheme that could pose a health risk to unsuspecting Kenyans.
He also condemned that, and he said that indeed anyone who oppresses the poor will have punishment from God. I'm sure that's it. So apart from Prophet Jeremiah and Prophet Amos, we also have Prophet Micah, who also observed that there was no honest person left in Judah. Imagine, not even one. There was no honest person left in Judah. All were disloyal to God. So the people are waiting for every opportunity to commit murder or hurt their fellow citizens. So I'd like to ask, if today a prophet is sent and then aulizwe, just go to Kiserian, look for Amarongai, just give me one just person, one honest person who does not oppress the poor, who does not disrespect the Sabbath and use it to sell grain at profit, who does not overcharge their customers, who does not use false weighing scales, who does not challenge injustice and the truth spoken in courts. Will you even have one? Will you be among the ones we're going to choose? So food for thought. And then the Israelites back then were waiting for every opportunity to commit murder. We've seen murder happening every day in our screens. every single day, for the slightest reasons, to the slightest provocations, any single day. Oh, sijui someone has been found in someone else's house, anauliwa. Oh, sijui msichana, there's a guy who wants a boy and then amemkataa, anamuua. Oh, sijui guys are quarreling over 50 bob, over food, you know. So actually we are living the modern day Israel, whereby people they use the slightest they actually look for the slightest reason to commit murder and hurt their fellow citizens. I hope that none of us we will find ourselves in such situations. And then even officials and judges in courts were taking bribes. This is Israel. Is it happening today? Yes. Bribes everywhere. You saw in the news just the other day on Citizen wakisema kuhusu virusi barabarani. Police they're collecting bribes each and every place, actually everywhere. The police are collecting bribes. So again, that used to happen in courts. Maybe you've taken your case to court, you need justice, but since they say in Kenya justice is for the rich, since you don't have money, and then the one who has actually taken your accuser has something to bribe to the judges and the lawyers and the prosecutors, justice will not be served. So this also used to happen in the time of Prophet Micah, and actually it is not the best thing. So we are advised to always have justice and pray that indeed justice be served in all angles of life. So in the New Testament this time we have James, who condemns the rich who had amassed riches, yet they fail to pay wages to people who work in their fields. Imagine you are a very rich person, you have a very big parcel of land, then you have people coming to your land for some vibarua. Then you're supposed to pay them at least 300 shillings, maybe, or what you guys agree on. And then, since you're a very rich person, and you actually think like, sasa unamlipa, what is 300 shillings? You end up not giving them. That has been condemned in the Bible. It is actually in the New Testament, whereby James condemned the rich who had amassed riches, yet they had failed to pay wages to the people who worked on their fields. The rich were also condemned for murdering innocent people. Yes, innocent people. We've seen so many innocent people being murdered, and there is no case. There is no follow-up, since the one who has maybe committed the murder is a rich person. Look at the example of the latest that we had that was trending last week about DJ Evolve. Did you watch that? DJ Evolve was shot on live camera. The CCTV recorded that, and justice till today has not been served. The person who shot the guy is walking scot-free. The guy can't even, this DJ can't even move, he can't talk, his speech has been altered. But since the guy who shot him is a rich person, justice so far has been delayed. And you know, they say justice delayed is justice denied. So James condemned the rich for murdering innocent people, and he also warned them of God's judgment. So Christians should be just and treat all people fairly. All people, regardless of the state, regardless of the stature, regardless of the economic financial status, we should treat all people just and fairly. They should also be compassionate and treat the less fortunate with respect and kindness. You should treat the less fortunate with respect and kindness. And again, as I said, regardless of the social status, economic, anything, you should treat all the people with respect and in kindness. They should also defend those who are weak and give them appropriate help. Yes, should defend those who are weak and give them appropriate help. Christians should also be aware that God punishes wicked people. Yes, indeed. God punishes wicked people. So wicked people are the ones who don't treat people with the justice they deserve. They are not fair. They don't treat people equally. Since someone is not of your class, you don't treat them as fairly as you would expect to treat another person. So Christians should also learn to treat people equally and fairly. So what have we learned? We've learned that justice means treating everybody equally and fairly, and we've seen about Prophet Jeremiah, who commanded the Israelites not to oppress or mistreat aliens, orphans, and widows. Prophet Amos, on the other hand, condemned the injustices in Israel, like the oppression of the poor by the rich and the injustices in courts. Prophet Micah condemned those who denied justice to the poor in courts and the judges who took bribes. Then James, on the other hand, condemned the rich people who failed to pay wages to the poor workers. So Christians should uphold justice by treating all people equally. So what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to you're supposed to learn more about the Christian value of justice. Treat your classmates and your neighbors justly. Tell your friends to practice justice in their dealing with one another. Encourage your church to condemn the injustices in society. Yes, actually encourage the church. Take this up as an example. Be the example. Encourage your church to condemn the injustices and also uphold justice in your daily activities. So the notes will be aired shortly on your screens, and please practice justice in all that you do. Stay safe, sanitize. God bless you.